Thanks for joining me for this edition of the Church Security Answer Man. In this episode, we're continuing to answer more of your questions. This one today, a great question. What if somebody refuses to leave? So you ask them to leave. What if they refuse to leave? This question comes to us from Victor Omebi. And I probably messed that up, Victor. I apologize. Victor is one of our great regular community participants. So we're so glad he gives us some comments and sends in a question here. So let's talk about it. And as we get going, I want to remind us that this episode is brought to you and I by the Church Security Academy. Link in the description, or go to churchsecurityacademy.org. Great training over there, and they're starting to put together more and more opportunities for you. And I think they have a membership that's going to be coming up there pretty quick, which will be a dynamite. So let's talk. What if somebody refuses to leave? You really have two choices. I guess you have a third. Maybe you could just let them stay, change your mind, let them stay and not ask them to leave. Probably not likely that that's going to happen. So our next choice is you could escort them out, and we can do that by putting a hand on the shoulder. And as I've talked about before, we have many of these types of situations where it really doesn't take much to ask somebody to leave. These folks oftentimes are that are service interrupters, are dealing with schizophrenia or other mental health issues, and so they're gonna be willing to comply pretty easily. You go up, put a hand on their back, maybe screen them out, as we've talked about. And a couple of you get in front of them and just stand there, and then you ask them to leave. And majority of the time, from my experience and discussions with other people who have had these experiences, they're going to walk out with you. Just simply say, hey, could you go to the door with me right now? Or go to the door with me right now, please. And just simply escort them to the door, hand on the shoulder. You might have to kind of escort them with their arm or something like that a little bit. Usually that will take care of it. We don't want to have a tackle and drag session. So that's usually enough for us to deal with the situation. So, and then your next option really is call the police. Do nothing, call police and let them show up and just hang out. I've seen where a musician gets up and starts playing just to kind of drown them out if they're in some sort of service interruption or whatever it is. Just wait for the police. Now, I would propose to you that if you escort them out, if you have to put a hand on them, and especially if you have to tussle with them or tackle them or something, which is rare, we don't usually need to do that. But if we have to put too much of a hand on them, I suggest you call the police anyway. Set your boundary and don't let somebody get away with not being compliant and interrupting your service. The other reason is simply because they could maybe come back and sue you later on. So you want it documented. You want the police to show up and document the fact that, you had to escort them out and maybe kind of push them out or pull them out, that kind of thing. So those are really your best options. And many times it does not come to this, having to escort someone out. From my experience in discussions, as I mentioned, most of the time these people don't refuse to leave. So it's just a matter of going up with your team or you and somebody else, screening them out. And that means stand in front of them. If they're lecturing the pastor or priest, then you stand in front of them, between them and the pastor or priest, so that they can't really make complete contact with them or eye contact with them, or they're not getting their message delivered. And then you just ask them to go with you to the door and escort them out. So most people will be compliant with that. If not, maybe a little bit more pushing or a little bit more gentle persuasion for them to go out with you. And that's it for this session. Please like and subscribe so that you and I can stay in communication. Leave a comment for me. And if you disagree, leave a comment. If you agree, leave some comments so that we can have some good communication for the community as well as for myself. I love to hear from you. So take a look at this video that's appearing on the screen now, and that will help you continue your studies in this church security mission.